about the sentence that Steven Donzinger was given. For those that haven't followed this story, it's rather crazy. He successfully sued Chevron for destroying the environment and causing harm to people with environmental destruction, this kind of thing. And Chevron has basically gone after him and gotten him held in contempt of court. And he's he's being given sentences that are like multiple times longer than anybody has ever been given for this kind of charge, right? It's really quite absurd. It's very clear that that Chevron is taking this out on him, and that the courts are obliging. This is in The Guardian. Lawyer Steven Donzinger gets 6-month sentence for contempt in Chevron battle. Judge orders prison for indigenous rights campaigner despite UN experts' opinion that his treatment broke international law. Steven Donzinger, the U.S. indigenous rights campaigner and lawyer who spent decades battling the energy firm Chevron over pollution in the Ecuadorian rainforest, was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment on Friday for criminal contempt charges arising from a lawsuit brought by the oil giant. Donzinger, who was disbarred from practicing law in New York last year, was found guilty in May of defying court orders, including by failing to turn over his computer and other electronic devices. Friday's sentence, handed down by federal judge Loretta Preska in Manhattan, came a day after he asked the court to consider an opinion by independent UN experts that found his court-ordered home confinement of more than 2 years was a violation of international human rights law. This is just insane, you guys. The UN experts' opinion said the U.S. breached international law by putting Donzinger under house arrest for about 4 times the maximum sentence of 6 months that he has now received in his contempt case. So he got 2 years of house arrest. They're not counting that as time served, and now they're giving him the maximum, which is 6 months. So he's going to serve 2.5 years, or a little over, I think, 2.5 years, for a crime where the maximum is supposed to be 6 months. And it's all fugazi anyway, you guys. Like, this is, Chevron is mad that they got successfully sued and they went after him. So it's not like there's any legitimacy to this charge to start with. But even if there was, he is now serving 5 times the maximum for this charge. And contempt, you guys, it's not like it's not like he went out and assaulted somebody. Okay, contempt of court is this kind of nuanced, law anyway. Really insane here. The experts appointed by the Geneva-based UN Human Rights Council said that the appropriate remedy would be to accord Donzinger an enforceable right to compensation. So they're saying not only should you not throw him away for 6 months, you should compensate him for having him on house arrest for 2+ years. That's the opinion of the United Nations. Amnesty International also petitioned U.S. authorities to promptly implement the decision by the UN Working Group on arbitrary detention, calling for an immediate release of Steven Donzinger. While Preska was not bound to consider the UN expert's testimony that Donzinger had been unlawfully confined, she imposed an unexpectedly tough sentence. Quote, "It seems that only the proverbial 2x4 between the eyes will instill in him any respect for the law," she said from the bench. Absolutely unhinged and insane. That is unhinged is really the only word that comes to mind, you guys. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this one. How often do you think lawyers for corporations and for Chevron skirt the law and avoid contempt charges? I don't even know where to start with this one. This is the risk that comes with going after these giants. And this is part of how this corruption sort of maintains itself and props itself up. Because even when you're legally correct, when the system should help you, it sides with the big guy. So there's this fear that's instilled in any attorney that might consider suing a Chevron or a big bank or a big corporation or what have you. There's this fear instilled in them that, hey, even if I win this case, which should be beyond celebratory. That's highlight of a career kind of stuff, right? It should be a massive moment. They turn that moment instead into this moment of fear. Oh shit, what's Chevron gonna do now? That's part of how this corruption props itself up and maintains itself. And Steven Donzinger is a perfect, example of this. It just kind of embodies all of the problems with our system. He wins a case that it was like a miracle to win that case, right? Because everything legally is built to protect the powerful. So to even win that case is huge. And then this is the result. So for those that haven't kept up on his case, I really encourage you to look into it. It is ridiculous. I mean, it's one of these things where I could probably cover a story or two like this every fucking week because our legal system is so designed to protect the powerful. But this one is so explicit and it's so obvious and so just right out in your face kind of, and it demonstrates a lot of the problems with our legal system and our inability to hold powerful institutions and companies to any sort of account whatsoever. So I'm hoping that this will somehow change, but I'm not naive enough to expect it to. I think that unfortunately he is going to have to serve 6 months for the crime of I keep saying prosecuting, for the crime of successfully suing a corporation for damaging the environment and for their rapacious business model. So this is a wild story, and we'll keep up with this if there are any updates, but I hope like hell that something changes. But again, I'm not naive enough to expect it to. Also wanted to talk